tat param purusha khyater guna vaitrushnyam. Tat param purusha khyatehe guna vaitrushnyam. That vairagya, that detachment that is higher, the detachment to the material world, the gunas, is achieved through perception or knowledge of Purusha. In this video, we are going to learn about a higher form of Vairagya, that is, a higher form of detachment or dispassion. In the previous sutra, Sutra 1.15, we were introduced with the term Vairagya, Viraga, right? Detachment, dispassion, no longer being attracted to the material objects, etc. So it was defined as Drishtanushavika Vishaya Vitrushnasya Vashikara Sanya Vairagyam. Vairagya or detachment is the intelligent control of one who is no longer thirsting or craving after the objects that are seen or heard. Right? That's Vairagya. And if you're unfamiliar with Vairagya, please watch the previous video on Sutra 1.15 so then you can better understand Paravairāgya or 1.16, a higher form of Vairagya. Now, this is a very interesting concept that's about to come. Sutra 1.16, okay, states Tat param purusha khyater guna vaitrushnyam. Now, here it is saying that which is the highest, that vairagya, that dispassion which is the highest, is the indifference to the gunas that is achieved from the knowledge or perception of Purusha. Now, let us now delineate or explain the difference between Vairagya and Paravairāgya. Now, we understood in the previous definition of Vairagya in 1.15 that a person who has achieved the state of Vairagya is no longer moved or interested or motivated by the gross forms of matter. The person sees, a person sees like food, person sees someone who they are attracted to, right? A woman or a man. Someone sees, let's say, a building, a skyscraper that is very beautiful, that they feel that, okay, I should own this one day. Or someone sees, a nice house. Or someone sees, whatever our desires are, right? That person sees these things and then looks at these things and thinks to himself that, I don't want any of this. I'm okay. I'm okay where I am. And the reason why this person in Sutra 1.15 in Vairagya sees these things is because they see the defects of all the material objects. They see the dosha, the defects of the material objects. Now, what does this mean? What is dosha? Dosa and dosha are also really good, tasty Indian foods. South Indian foods, but we're not going to be referring to those right now. In this case, in Sanskrit, dosha means a defect, something that is imperfect, something that is impure. So not the food. So dosha or imperfection, right? The person who is in Vairagya sees material objects as imperfect. That is, they're constantly changing, right? Impermanent. So when everything is constantly changing, what is really the use of attaching one's ego, one's sense of self, one's happiness to things that are constantly changing? Because once they change, they alter or they disappear, and then there's pain. There's no satisfaction in these things. It is a relentless, insatiable chase. Okay? So the person in Sutra 1.15 under the state of Vairagya understands this. Understands that the gross forms, the large forms, the physical bodies, the human bodies, male, female, etc., things that they find beautiful, trees, animals, food, etc., these things have imperfections in them, the material nature of things. But now, Sutra 1.16 states something very specific here, and that's right here. Purusha khyatehe guna vaitrushnyam. Vaitrushnyam, a detachment from the gunas. From the gunas. Now, if you have not watched the 3 gunas video, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, please do watch that video. You'll understand this more easily, okay? But now, all of the material world in yoga philosophy, in Sankhya philosophy, all of the material world known as Prakriti is composed of 3 fundamental principles. 3 fundamental pieces of nature, qualities. Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. Sattva is the light principle, the buoyant, light, clear, lucid principle. Rajas is the active, moving, motion, passionate principle. And Tamas is the inert, lazy, enveloping, dark principle. All 3 of these principles, these qualities, are in constant interplay with each other. And they exist within all material objects. Whether I'm talking about my body, my mind, the chair, the table, the wall, another person's body, bird, etc. Whatever objects there are, sense objects, all of those sense objects are composed of those 3 different qualities in different proportions. Sometimes the sattva quality is higher, sometimes the tamas quality is higher, sometimes the rajas quality is higher. Now, these qualities, you cannot see them, you cannot perceive them, just like atoms, right? Just like atoms, you cannot just perceive them. So, knowing this, in Sutra 1.16, the individual, the yogi who has Paravairāgya, the higher Tatparam, that higher form of Vairagya, is not only detached or dispassionate to the gross forms, right? A person's body, animals, food, tasty things, whatever, etc., right? They are also detached from the gunas. They're also detached from the qualities that cannot be perceived. They're detached from the fundamental principles of nature that compose all of Prakriti, all of matter, that compose my entire body, that compose every single form of food, every single form of, other people's bodies, etc. All desires, buildings, etc. So, what does this mean? This means that the yogi, the individual who has Paravairāgya, is detached from everything, all things. So not only does the yogi see a gross form, the yogi sees the gross form of things and knows that I don't want any of that. I'm good. I have to do anything of that, because I can see that the gunas, constantly changing gunas, are imperfect. They're constantly in competition with each other, and they're changing. There's no satisfaction in this. Right? So the first Sutra 1.15, Vairāgya person, is detached from the gross forms, from seeing the defects, the dosha, right? The defects in things. This person is the next person, Sutra 1.16, Paravairāgya, is detached from the gunas themselves, from the fundamental things, from the atomic nature of things. Very deep. Now, the other difference is, first of all, how are they detached? How are they detached? Why are they detached from the fundamental parts of nature? This is because Purusha khyatehe, from the perception or knowledge, right, of Purusha. From the perception or knowledge of Purusha, the person is indifferent, unattached to the gunas. So, what does this mean? This means that the yogi who realizes or experiences Purusha, a yogi who experiences the soul, right? This particular yogi is detached from the material world. Why? What is in the nature of realizing the soul and becoming detached from material things in this particular case? As we have explained before, the material things are constantly changing, right? And your desire is insatiable for something that is
you put your ego and things into things that are constantly changing, it's going to be problematic. The issue with this is that whatever you do, you'll be dissatisfied at the end of the day. So Purusha, however, the qualities of Purusha are eternal, unchanging, blissful, right? Eternal, forever, permanent. So the yogi that has khyati, knowledge, understanding, perception of Purusha, right? This yogi has already attained perfection, has already attained everything that he wants. He sees the nature of himself, and he sees the nature of eternality in the soul, in consciousness, in Purusha. And so when you see this nature, when you see this eternality, you're no longer interested in things that are non-eternal. You're no longer interested in the material things. Why? Because the material things do not give these qualities, and the yogi does not feel these things, right? So from perception of Purusha comes the understanding that material things, material strivings, goals and stuff like that, you're trying to get materially, they're actually imperfect. Doesn't mean you should try not to get them, right? You can get them, but you have to understand that they're defective in that way. So this yogi in Sutra 1.16, what happens to him? Well, when this yogi has an understanding, he thinks of three things. First thing is this: whatever I want to achieve, or whatever that is to be achieved, I have already achieved. Whatever I want, whatever that is to be wanted, I already have it. Whatever I can get, whatever that is to be gotten, I already have. There's nothing more for me to get. I am satisfied where I am. Okay? So the yogi, once upon seeing the Purusha, upon perceiving the Purusha, khyati of the Purusha, no longer wants anything. I'm good. Everything that is to be gotten, I already have. I'm done. Okay? So the next thing is the kleshas. Now, if you remember the kleshas, actually I don't think we went over the kleshas, but we will go over them. Kleshas are the impediments, the blockages of why we cannot, or why the yogi cannot still his mind. He cannot suppress the mind and the fluctuations of the mind. The kleshas are the blockages, right? Ignorance, ego, desire, aversion, clinging to life, or fear of death. We'll go over them. These are the different things in the mind that make a person think about certain things, do the wrong things, act in a certain way that are not conducive to the path of yoga. And so the kleshas, they have to be removed, they have to be weakened in the mind, and we'll explain this because there's a path called Kriya Yoga in chapter 2 that'll explain that. So the kleshas have to be removed. So the yogi, in addition to thinking that whatever I need I already have, the yogi also thinks all the kleshas that have to be removed are already removed. They're removed. There's nothing else to be left in that case. Right? And the third thing that the yogi thinks is samsara and rebirth, that the cycle of birth and death, bound by my karma that is bounding me, my actions, my karma that is making me bound in cycle and birth and death, it's over. I have broken myself from the cycle of birth and death. So the yogi that perceives the soul thinks to himself, I don't need anything. I have broken the kleshas, right? I have weakened the kleshas, and I am broken from the cycle of birth and death. I have been released from that. So that is what Vyasa's commentary states. So now remember that the intellect, the buddhi, which we will have to go over soon, the intellect of this practitioner is very clear and very pure. Very clear. They can see things as they are. It's under sattvika nature. Okay? So they can see the defects in things. In order to see the defects in things, right? The mind has to be very pure and clear, has to understand it in that case. So why though, This indicates that when Purusha is not seen, right? or when Purusha is not understood, the practitioners still think that there can be something achieved through these material means. You could still get long happiness, you can still get life satisfaction, etc. through these material means. There's this understanding. So that indicates that this understanding is fallacious, it's false in some way. There's a problem with this understanding, and that once upon seeing the Purusha, then this understanding will change into, none of these things are going to satisfy me, but only the Purusha, my inner nature, will satisfy me. That's a belief in this. So overall, we have to understand that through the abhyasa of Purusha, now this is, remember, the practice of understanding Purusha. Through the practice of understanding Purusha, right? The person attains indifference to the gunas. And this detachment, right? This detachment comes from knowledge, comes from the knowledge, right? And this detachment is no different from kaivalya. Kaivalya we will explain later on, but kaivalya means like liberation, isolation, aloneness. It's the Sankhya Yoga form of liberation. It's like moksha, kaivalya. And here it's saying that in order to achieve kaivalya, you have to be detached. You have to be detached at some point. Detachment is very important to achieving kaivalya in this case. In this school of thought, at least. There's other schools of thought, of course, right? So in yoga and Sankhya, detachment is a key component in achieving liberation from prakriti. The soul, the consciousness is no longer bound by prakriti, which it was never bound in the first place, which we'll explain later, but the illusion of it being bound, the illusion is removed. So, as of now, we have done Sutra 1.16. We will then go into Sutra 1.17. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please do let me know in the comments section. And please do share this with your friends. Please do subscribe if you feel that this is helping you. I know that many families, many Indian families, parents, elders, etc. will want to learn about these things, even some kids. So definitely do share this. So thank you, and until the next video.